what? Okay, so I'm going to say ready. So
yeah.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to Small Talk TV. Today we're going to be starting a new series on African history. We've got a special guest for the first show. Two special guests, James Diboe and Terence Small. We're going to be talking about specifically Asia. James has traveled to a couple of different countries there, so we're going to focus on that part of the world. And then I've got some questions that I want to ask, and after I've asked them, we'll kind of open it up and see what Curtis and James want to say about this and that. So yeah, I just want to give a little introduction, James, and tell people what you do, what you study and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, go way back, and I've always been into African history and that, but we're concentrating on indigenous peoples of Asia. So my calling was studying a lot of the grandmasters. Most of them I've spoken on Renoka Rashidi many times. Very inspired, and then took these trips myself, and I've never looked back since. And I'm still fascinated to this day seeing the Black presence in Asia. You know what I'm saying? That's it, definitely. I'm thankful for having me as well, Terence. I'm
yeah, you're welcome. And
Curtis,
can you just give us a quick introduction as well?
Yeah, I've been started off doing acting originally when I left school, and then I got into more sort of political stuff when we did a play to take into schools about Columbus's landing in the Americas from the indigenous people's point of view. And since then I've done loads of multicultural awareness and things like that. I like to challenge people's preconceptions. It's great to do with young people because you're taking the shackles off the mind, and letting them think of themselves and do research and whatever. So
yeah, that's good, brother.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing we'll get you back on to talk about some of that stuff that you just said there on a later show, definitely, so we can dig a bit deeper. But okay, let me go. I've got some questions for James, specifically on Asia. And what I want you to do basically, if you can, is talk a little bit about the countries you've visited in Asia. Don't have to go to all of them, because I know you've been to loads, but talk about some of the countries you've been to Asia and some of the people you've met and some of the tribes you've met while you was over there.
Okay, in Asia, I've been to Sri Lanka, and over there met the Veda people. They're the tribes in Sri Lanka. Vietnam, I've been to, and I met the Hmong people. Thailand I went to, and I met the Mani people. Cambodia, I met a lot of the Khmer people. Also going to the Angkor Wat and these places, the Bayon temples. And where's the other place? The other place, Malaysia, and I went to visit the Orange Asli tribe in Malaysia, and the Eta in the Philippines. Also in Indonesia, I met a lot of indigenous people. Now, you don't even have to go into a rainforest with Indonesia. There's a lot of dark-skinned people, curly hair to Afro, some of them, also Singapore, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi. Yeah, so basically, I'd say the majority of Asia would be Southeast Asia. Like I say, Sri Lanka, the Veda people, they're people that I encountered when I just, like I say, I think I spoke about this many times, the way I've said that I encountered a person who has a shop in Liverpool 8, Sri Lankan man. And I just made a connection to go out there because I was going around Asia to meet different tribes. And then met the Veda people. Now, the person who took me was the brother of the shopkeeper. Now, what basically happened is he didn't know about these people. So it was a big surprise and an eye-opener for him. He actually took me, he knew how to get there. We had to get 3 different buses, 8 hours, then get a little tuk-tuk on the way to get in there. Lashing down heavy with rain. The journey was just unbelievable. Driving on these mad snake bends. Going in, I don't even know how high we were in the air, easily 1,000 feet or more. I think 1,000 feet is nothing.
Yeah, because the people you're going to meet, obviously, you're kind of like based in the city, but you're traveling out to go and meet them. These people are never near, like, the hotels you're staying in. You've got to go far out, tapping into the countryside to meet them or whatever.
It is. And they're very dangerous journeys as well. And I'm a person, me, where I don't want to do things the tourist way sometimes, where you pay expensive fee. So what I've done is I basically hired in the Philippines, hired a driver, hired a car with a driver, and that worked out quarter of the price of what it originally was. So I saved myself a lot of money, and there was two of us going there because he wanted to charge per person this price. So it's about saving money, because say, for example, a man like yourself wants to do this trip, or Curtis, or anybody listening. Maybe you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on doing it. Maybe you don't want to do it the luxurious way, where you're spending plenty of cash, because it costs money to travel at the end of the day. You can't fly for free, is it? So, we're trying to do things the way of the most purest way. So when I go and encounter these people in Thailand, like these pictures we're looking at now, these are the people in Thailand. These are only about 300 people left. And these are the indigenous First Peoples of Thailand, which a lot of people are not too familiar with this information I'm speaking on, unless you're a scholar, or unless that you've invested a bit of time into this, studying the greats, who some of the grandmasters of the, like Renaud Rashidi, Dr. Clyde Winters, J. Rogers, so yeah, but these people though, these are very spiritual people though, very spiritual people, and it's about nature. You see, that's the easiest way to put it. It's about their connection to nature, their connection to the universe, our purpose, what we're here for. It's not about greed and just taking more than what you can consume. Also as well, these people, this area now is called Sakaya. Now, I had to get two different buses there. It took about 7 hours. Now, I went to a place called Patalong first. And now this area called Patalong, they're not there at the moment, but they used to be there during the 70s, the Communism War. So when the guerrillas in Thailand were fighting during this Communism War, and they would use the Mani places as bases. So then they've had to flee and move to Sakaya, which is at least about 2-hour drive or something like that. So that's where we had to get the next bus there. So then I found out a lot of this on the way. And one thing I noticed there, mixing with local people, when I was going on the bus journey, it took me two buses to get there. I didn't actually really know where I was going, just to be real with you. I just took the chance. But I'm a risk taker. That's what I do, So the time I got up there, I met a lot of good, friendly people on the bus. Now on the atmosphere on the bus, no one's really talking to each other. Very quiet. So it's not really like it's a sociable, because these are people from there.
Was the old locals? Was they on the bus, or was there some tourists?
Locals, just locals. Yeah, I don't think I seen one tourist. Matter of fact, I didn't see one tourist. Not on our bus, but in the next bus station. And he stood out like a sore thumb,
Yeah.
Like, I'm not born in that country, but I want to blend in. I don't want to look like you're nervous. I don't want to be looking like, I picked up that they were lost. Not because they were Europeans or Australians. I picked it up because you can tell people's body language, and they're looking around in the air, and like you can see that they don't know where they are. And people will pick up on this. This is how people usually get robbed and certain things happen, because they're looking for vulnerable people. So I'm just going to blend me. I've just got my sunglasses on. I'm just blending through. I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm keeping myself to myself because I'm by myself. But at the same time, I know how to make that connection to, not indigenous, I wouldn't call them indigenous people. They're just people from Thailand. And a lot of them did convert to Islam, funny enough, because we're moving into the south now. So when you move into the south of Thailand, you're going to be around, you see a lot more Muslims, because it's close to Malaysia, isn't it? And the jungle where I am, I'm in one side of the jungle in Thailand. Now, when I visited Malaysia, I'm at the other side of the jungle. So I've been both sides of it. And it's very interesting, these people, because they don't look any different to the people in Malaysia. This is Thailand. and the ones I see in the Philippines don't look too much different than them. Matter of fact, they don't look too much different than most black people around the world. Very short in stature. And that's one thing I notice about a lot of these tribes. They're all short. And they remind me of the pygmies in Congo, Cameroon.
Yeah. Well, there's pygmies in Asia, isn't he? Somewhere.
He is pygmies, yeah.
Yeah.
They're the oldest people, the pygmies. It seems everywhere around the world that the smallest people are the oldest people.
The oldest.
Maybe down the line, the diet change and people become bigger and whatever reason.
So
yeah.
these let me ask you on these who were these people behind you? Sorry, are they did you say they're from the Philippines? The Mani tribe. So obviously
Thailand.
they're like
This is Thailand.
They're relatively dark skinned, isn't it? So
yeah,
you know what I mean, a lot darker than your average, you know, what they call mixed race person. So let's say, for example, now when you're meeting these darker skinned tribes in Asia, are you encountering indigenous people or maybe like the descendants of ancient migrations, you know what I mean, or recent migrations from Africa, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both, yeah, right. Now, depending on how you view things, I'm very spiritual, me, and I'm very in tune, and sometimes it's not even about words, it's about picking up the vibration. And I pick up the vibration. I know they pick up mine because energy is everything, you know. So what I get with them is they have kept the culture as from the beginning of Thailand, basically, you know. So this did this culture start independently, or did it from Africa? Did the spirituality come straight from Africa? I believe Africa, and because spirituality is not something you can challenge, you see, because it's not something like you can go and carbon date. You know, you can't go and DNA test spirituality. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's totally the opposite to that, to be honest. So when I'm looking at them and I'm observing them, it's all about nature. And that is, like I say, I put it in the simplest way, nature. I don't want to use any fancy words. So if you look at nature, we're all the people around the planet who are still in tune with nature the most. So it's melanated countries in particular. I know maybe you can go to Wales and you see people, you know, trying to live country and live a bit, you know, yeah. But I'm talking about on large scales, though.
Yeah,
large.
Most people.
Yeah. So now these people, like, I mean, they're good to be extinct in the future unless people become so aware that they must protect them. Now, when you see protect these people, it's not, some people think it's about giving them an identity card. It's about bringing them into the system where they become a slave eventually. That's all. Because we live in the system, we know how the system works, most places, don't we? So I do respect these people a lot. And I feel like these people are the people, like, my teachers also, I see them as my teachers. They are our teachers. They're still living the way our ancestors once did. And we have to give credit. And these are not easy places to get to. Even when you're in these countries, like in Malaysia, for example, me and Daniel, my cousin, who I took him over to see the Al-Jazuli tribe, you know, he'll tell you how hard that was. And when I say how hard it was, done all my research before I went on the people. I went researching like which bus am I getting there, or which I weren't even focused on that. So I just assumed when I got there that a lot of tour operators would be aware of this is how you're going to get to these places. And most of them didn't know what I was talking about. He said, what tribes? Black people in this country. And so
they don't even know much about them themselves?
No. And this was an eye-opener, because sometimes, you know, but it's not an eye-opener anymore, because I'm aware people are dumbed down in the planet, all over the planet in some sort of way. You know, you can go to Australia and people have got the heritage there, you know, so you can go anywhere, people forget the heritage. But with these people, though, it's funny because how many people around the world are aware of them? Not too many people are aware of these people. You know what I'm saying? And once they decide to start mixing with their society, the popular dominant society, life will change for them. Because what will happen to them is they'll end up on the streets eventually. Definitely. So that's why it's very important to get this information out. That's what I'm trying to do. Get the information out. Let people know that these are the first people. So when we talk about indigenous rights, how much rights do these people have? And, you know, you've even got to look at like, well, what happened to these people even before the Europeans? We know that the Spanish and the Portuguese going into Southeast Asia, calling them negritos. That was the name they were calling them. Now, but they were calling us negritos. In the Spanish language, they'd call us negritos too. So Ranoka Rashidi actually mentioned this to me. He says, sometimes science, well, a lot of their stuff has contradicted, but I understand research changes. But you mentioned Ranoka Rashidi. How, remember last time I mentioned to you about the Melanesian is far related from the Africans than to the Europeans. But when it suits them, we're all in one bracket. You know what I mean? So he mentioned that to you about this. So this is where research gets, you know, research.
You just pick different parts of the evidence depending on what kind of argument you're trying to make in it.
That's the problem, yeah. So I remember he was stating that, like, well, you can't have one. You gotta have one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're gonna say, well, they're just distant relatives, just like the European distant relatives and everyone else distant relatives. But then when you're calling them negritos, you know, Australia, they call them like black fellas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I know they speak because it's the Spanish, you know, they started that word negrito, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. They brought it over, didn't they, to the Americas?
And the British corrupted it.
Yeah.
Well, many people corrupted
that's right.
Yeah. But Asia's one thing about Asia is a very nice place though. And I felt safe going to actually meet the Mali people in Thailand. I mean, because sometimes you don't know what's going to happen along the way. You can get police stopping people, you know, them stop checks and all that one.
How long's that journey from where you were based out to where you were? Was it like 6 hours, 7 hours, or how long did you have to travel for?
7 hours. I had to get 2 buses.
Wow.
But there was a lot of buses actually.
Wow.
First of all, I stayed in a place called Krabi. Now, you have to go to Krabi town to catch a bus. So the first bus is about maybe 4.5 hour journey or something. Then the next bus, you know, which you're waiting in that, you'll go to the next place. Now, that's not actually taking you right into the jungle. The bus is not there to take you into the jungle, by the way, which I was a little naive and thought maybe the bus is going to get me as close as I can get. So when it gets down there, I'm asking for the taxi. They say they don't have taxis around here. You look at like a hitchhiker, they'll pick you up for free. So I'm like, I don't believe that. And it was true. It was true. Because it's a different mentality. We don't know this mentality, you see. We know the mentality of like, you want this, you pay me, or you give me something, isn't it? But I mean, I did.
It's like that community spirit, man. The community spirit of the East.
Yeah, and these people, they said, "Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take you somewhere for you to them, like, you know, stay." So this forest now, like the forest that's gonna lead into the jungle. So I'm in the forest now, in there, like a hut. When I say a hut, it's like it's got a bathroom in there, but it's just one room, like dead small, little tiny little hut. And then I finally found someone to take me in there, because the person you pay a little £5 to stay in this hut. I was asking them, could you just get me to see these people? I've got pictures on my phone showing them this is the people I need to see. So basically they were like, no, we don't know anyone. Then luckily there was a man that turned up who wanted to love everything about Liverpool, like the football. I don't like football. I've never been interested in football, but for that day, I went along with it. You know what I'm saying? So he said, yeah, I'll take you in the jungle. Like, wow. I was like excited.
Yeah.
The plan was to go to the jungle in the daytime It wasn't on the night.
Hey, let's stop for 2 minutes, Dibs, for a little smoke break.
Okay.
That will cut out. Oh, you can pause it if you want. Man.
Yeah, so Vietnam was an interesting one because I was expecting the Vietnamese Hmong people I visited to look like these. I was disappointed when I got up because they were more like the Mongoloid type, because remember 2,000 years ago, the Chinese conquered the Vietnamese 2,000 years ago. Plus as well, you can go back even a little bit before that, the Austronesian expansion. The Austronesian expansion, which came out of Taiwan and southern China and came into places like Southeast Asia, Madagascar, and into the Pacific. You know, that was the Austronesian migration, which changed the looks. So people wonder, like, well, what does an Austronesian, what did he look like? I'd say what they look like in Southeast Asia and Polynesia, not Melanesia, Polynesia. There's a difference, you know what I mean, the complexions. Yeah, so Vietnam, that was a 12-hour drive. It was a rough journey. I passed some nice places like the rice farms, amazing, you know, we're seeing like, what's been going up into, we're going to northern Vietnam. I think this is the back of China or something, like, let's say the back of China, like the mountains meeting there. And this is like 2,000 feet. I don't even know how high it was. And I'm disappointed because they were very arrogant, these tribes. But it's what I expected when I seen what they encountered. They didn't look like these folks. But all the ones that look like these people were the most important ones to me. The Eta in the Philippines. Well, amazing. We had to get a 4x4 Jeep. We hired a driver. And we hired a car with a driver to take us in there. And that was, like I said before, quarter of the price. You need a 4x4 Jeep. You're not going to go into these mountain areas with a normal car, because we have to scale up these big hills, and oh, it was amazing. But the driver said to us, do you want to go further? So maybe another person might say, you know what, I think we're high enough now, lad, let's swerve this, you know what I mean? But we wanted to go as high as possible. We went high, and it was just amazing. The first thing I said to them, remember, I've posted a video before, just no Africa, because that was the first thing on my mind. And he said, yes. And I was like, wow, that was like all I needed to hear. And I got really excited. And I was like, you know, it was like some spiritual words are coming out of me, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, the unrealness, because it's, to me, when I got there, it was like conquering my mission, because it's a big task to get these places, because, like I say, we didn't want to do it the tallest way. We just hired a car with the driver. So basically, he might not be a guy who's used to driving to this place. Not everyone, like, I mean, he's not a bus driver, so he's not used to maybe going there. So we have to stop, ask about 20 different people directions on the way. So when we finally got there and we seen the people, and actually we remember, even before we actually got to see the people, what happened, and this happened in Malaysia and the Philippines. When you're about, say 10 minutes, 15 minutes before you reach, you start seeing the people look different already. So it's like as you're getting further into it, they're going darker. The hair's getting more and more tighter. It's getting more tighter the more you get into these areas. And I've seen a few of them on them quad bikes in the Philippines. So I was like, wow, I was sweet when I seen them, like, you know what I mean? Then Malaysia, you know what I'm saying? They have these.
Oh yeah, you got I think you had footage, didn't you?
Which
I'm
one?
sure you had footage of
Yeah,
the people on the bikes. I think you've seen that.
Yeah. So once I seen them, that was a sign to me that we're getting very close now to where we're going. Once I seen those brothers on the quad bikes. So that was amazing, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then like the Asley tribe, Orange Asley original people. This is like the whole anthem. You talk about discovering, but original people. Because that's what the whole thing is, man, about original people and the most purest people with the purest knowledge, purest diets, you know, the purest oral history. Now,
Living off the land.
Yeah, and also you might get, okay, when I went to the Philippines, I seen a Jesus, a white Jesus in there. They haven't put it there. Someone put it there for them, obviously. Few of them have got into it because when they have little schools there, you see, and they'll try and bring all this stuff into the schools. You know what I'm saying? So, but what usually happens with indigenous people, they're not stupid to say, I'm swerving my culture and my knowledge to do this. They're not stupid like that. So that's what helps that connection still, because if it was just foolish, just fall into that, then there wouldn't be no connection. I have a spiritual connection when I encounter them. You know what I'm saying? Indonesia as well. A lot of dark-skinned people in Indonesia. And Indonesia, it's got thousands of islands. I actually went to Bali.
We're running out of time, right? Got a couple of minutes left. About 4 minutes left.
Yep.
So let me just ask you this question, this last question I got here. Like, how did you get into the ancient civilizations and studying indigenous tribes as opposed to like slavery and colonialism and the other, you know, the other popular stuff like that, imperialism? That's the European period. How did you how come the European, studying the European period?
Because I was Nigerian descent from my father's side, mud side, Trinidad. So I always knew we had the history. I'm not saying my father taught me the history. He taught me our culture. And that was enough for me to go out and learn the history, like studying the anthropologist, the scientists, studying practitioners, learning about wanting to go direct to go and see these indigenous people face to face. And I wanted to feel the energy. That was one thing, because sometimes you can get your impression in your own head out what you think is going to be there. But when you get there, it might not be what you expect. Well, like I say, these people were so friendly, do you know what I'm saying? But with the slavery thing, funny you mentioned that, yeah. That was one of the earliest studies also. I learned about, I was studying the slave trade, like from when I watched Roots at 9, 10. I want to say studied it, not going like deep, but there was enough information for me to get. I learned things from like whether it was musicians, Malcolm X, or certain people. So outside of that, I thought to myself eventually, I come to the point where, you know what, why are we just focused on slavery when we have this massive history of like going back to millennium? Because remember, when people first took people from the transatlantic slave trade, they didn't know about everyone came from Africa. They didn't know that the ancient Egyptians were black people, maybe. Or maybe they did, maybe they didn't know, but what would be scientific proof, reconstructions. These are things, this is not something that happened in the transatlantic slave trade. Look at America, they come with a 1-drop rule. They didn't have DNA tests at these times. So they can say whatever they want, but when you're dealing with proof, scientific proof of something, then you can say, it's like Diop, matter of fact, she can't Diop, because, the Europeans they tried to put racism into science also, didn't they? Like the European skull.
Yeah, the eugenics and stuff.
The eugenics, plus he was saying the European skull, because of the shape of it, he has to be more clever. So Diop debunked that. And this is like, he did. This is really, we've got to give Diop credit for doing these things. Not like saying that we were stupid enough to believe these things, but we needed an honest brother to come out with this information. Yeah. And Diop did that. So
that's a good, we've only got less than a minute, so that's a good note to finish on, man. But just before you go, tell people where they can find your channel, man, because you've got it there. You've got your own series called Discovering. So where can people find it on YouTube? What's the name of your channel and stuff?
Yeah, Culturolution, James Diboe. I better spell Culturolution. CULTURALUTION, and then James Diboe. And you'll find it. Subscribe. Got many shows interviewing people. Even Terence is on it. Different people's on it. But yeah, man. I'm about bringing that true culture, the Africanness, and it's a pleasure to be on your show, Terence, and I hope you have a great
Yeah, that's right. Hey, thanks for coming, man, and we'll do it again soon.
Bless, man.
I appreciate it.
Peace, man.
Yeah.
Do this again.
Okay.
Pacific, we'll do again or something. Yeah.